Hello, my dear friends. This is Rajesh Mahapatra. I hope all of you are doing well and happiness. In this session, I'll be telling you about the concept of how do you deploy an Apache and Nginx web server on a Linux cloud server in the Google Cloud platform. Apart from this, I'll guide you in the lab how do you set up Apache and Nginx web server on a Linux cloud server, and I'll show you in the lab how to stop, start and restart the web server based on your project requirement. Let's get started. As you can see here, these are the steps that you can follow to create a new Linux server using the GCP console portal. First of all, I'll create two new Linux server with the names Apache web server and Nginx web server so that you can easily understand all the steps for Apache web server and Nginx web server. I'll create both web server in the US Central 1 regions. As you can see here, these are the prerequisites required to create a new Linux server using the GCP console portal. As you can see here, these are the steps that you can follow to deploy an Apache web server on a Linux server on the Google Cloud platform. First of all, you connect to the Linux VM you just created, then click SSH in the row of the VM. Secondly, to update the available packages and use the system package manager for that operating system. Then use the command as sudo apt update. Thirdly, you can install the Apache web server on the Linux machine. Then use the command as sudo apt install Apache 2. Fourth step, verify that Apache web server status. Then use the command as sudo systemctl status Apache 2. If you want to stop the Apache web server based on your requirement, then as you can see here, all the command as I mentioned here, I'll show you in the lab also so that you can easily understand it. Finally, you can verify your web server using the Linux server external IP. As you can see here, these are the steps that you can follow to deploy Nginx web server on a Linux server on the Google Cloud platform. First of all, you connect to the Linux VM you just created, then click SSH in the row of the VM. Secondly, to update the available packages and use the system package manager for that operating system, then use the command as sudo apt update. Thirdly, you can install the Nginx web server on the Linux machine. Then use the command as sudo apt install nginx. Fourth step, verify that Nginx web server status. Then use the command as sudo systemctl status nginx. I'll show you all the details in the lab so that you can easily understand it, and same ways you can try to create a new or inside the Linux VM. Let's switch to the GCP console portal. Go to the GCP console portal and log in with your Google account credential. I already logged into my GCP account, and as you can see here, the GCP console portal page. Then in the GCP console, click on the navigation menu as you can see here. Then click on compute engine and wait a couple of seconds. Then click on the create instance button here. Now configure the new VM instance. As you can see here, I'll create two new VM. First, I'll create the Apache web server. Then I'll create Nginx web server new VM. Now the name of the new VM as Apache web server, and the regions as I selected here US Central and the US Central 1B as zone. Under the machine configuration, select the machine series as E2 and the machine type as E2 medium as you can see here. Then in the boutique section, to select your OS image based on your requirement like Debian, Ubuntu, CentOS, and you can also customize the boutique size if needed. As I selected here the default operating system as Debian as you can see here. Then click on the firewall rule for allow HTTP traffic and HTTPS traffic to the new Linux server. Then click on advanced option here and click on networking. As you can see here, I selected here default VPC and default subnet here, and rest of the field you can leave as it is. Then click on create here and wait a couple of seconds to start your new Apache web server VM. Then click on refresh button here. As you can see here, the Apache web server new Linux server is successfully created and the status of the VM as this instance is running now. Similarly, you can create another new Linux server as Nginx web server. Then click on create instance here. Then configure your new Linux server here. First, I'll enter the name of the instance as Nginx web server, and as you can see here the US Central as the region as I selected here, and I selected here zone as US Central 1B, and the machine configuration is E2 series, and the machine type is E2 medium, and the operating system as I selected here default as Debian. Then clicked on allow HTTP and HTTPS traffics to the new VM, and as you can see here the networking same I selected as it is, like the default VPC and default subnet, and rest of the field you can leave as it is, and then click on create button here and wait a couple of seconds to start your new Nginx web server. As you can see here, both Apache and Nginx web server are successfully created. Now you can select Apache web server first, then click on SSH and click on open in browser window here. It might take a couple of seconds to connect your new VM. Then click on authorize here. As you can see here, the new Apache web server is successfully connected here. Then press Ctrl L. Now first of all you update all the available packages and use the system package manager for that operating system. Then use the command as sudo apt update as you can see here. Then press enter. Then press Ctrl L. Then you can install the Apache web server on the Linux machine. Then use the command as sudo apt install Apache 2. Then press enter. And it might take a couple of seconds to install it. As you can see here, the Apache web server successfully installed in the new Linux server. Let's verify that Apache server status first. Then use the command as sudo systemctl status Apache 2. This is the name of web server. As you can see here, the Apache web server is running now. Now we'll navigate to our Compute Engine console portal and click on external IP. As you can see here, click on here, then change to HTTP. As you can see here, the Apache 2 Debian default page is showing a new window browser. Guys, I hope so now you can understand it, how you can install the Apache web server inside the new Linux server. This is easiest way. Just you have to write down the proper command inside the Linux server, then you can easily install it. Now if you want to stop the Apache server based on your requirement, then I'll show you in the lab so that you can easily understand it. Then use the command like sudo systemctl stop Apache 2. Then verify the status of the web server. Now as you can see here, the server status is inactive and dead. Then go to that same console portal, then refresh the web browser page. As you can see here, this site cannot be reached. If you want to start the Apache web server, then using the command as sudo systemctl start Apache 2. Then verify the status of the Apache web server. As you can see here, the server is again running now. Then go to that page, and as you can see here, the new Apache Debian default page is available here. If you want to disconnect for your Apache web server, then write the command like exit, then press enter. Let's connect to that Nginx web server. First of all, you select here, then click on SSH, then click on open in browser window, and it might take a couple of seconds to connect your new Linux server. Then click on authorize here. As you can see here, this is your new Nginx web server successfully connected. Then press Ctrl L here. Then first of all, you update the all available packages and use the system package manager for that operating system. Then use the command as sudo apt update. Then press enter. This is successfully done. Then you can install the Nginx web server on the new Linux VM. Then use the command as sudo apt-y install Nginx. And it might take a couple of seconds. As you can see here, the Nginx web server is successfully installed in your new Linux VM. Then verify that Nginx web server status. Then use the command as sudo systemctl status Nginx. As you can see here, the server status is active and running now. Then navigate to the Compute Engine portal as you can see here. Then copy the external IP from here. Then click on the new Chrome browser and write http:// then paste your external IP, then press enter. As you can see here, the welcome to Nginx, the default web page is available here. Similarly guys, here then press Ctrl C. If you want to stop the Nginx web server, then I'll show you the command as sudo systemctl stop Nginx. Then verify the status again. As you can see here, the status of the Nginx web server is inactive and dead status. Then refresh the page. As you can see here, this site cannot be reached. Then if you want to start again, then the command as sudo systemctl start Nginx, then verify the status again. As you can see here, the Nginx web server is active and running now, and navigate to that Chrome browser and again refresh here. As you can see here, the welcome to Nginx default web page is available here. Then press Ctrl C. If you want to exit here, then write the exit command and press enter. Then it disconnected for your new Windows server. Guys, I hope so. Now you can understand how do you create a new Apache web server and how do you can install your Nginx and Apache web server in your new Linux server. And thank you and have a great